All right, then welcome everyone to the Product Intelligence Sync on the 3rd of January 2023. So again, Happy New Year to everyone. And yeah, I hope everyone had a nice vacation. And we can directly start into things so that Sam can actually get back to doing things, not just meeting people.
So I've got the first one. I wanted to signal boost a merge request that I put in before I started my holiday break. So this is a page about our cross-stage data vision. And really what it's trying to articulate is how the analytics section will become the single source of truth for anyone sending data to GitLab or consuming data from GitLab and using what our section builds rather than everyone rolling their own thing. A problem we see today is that customers don't understand what sort of data is being collected, so they roll their own solution to figure it out. Account teams roll their own solutions to figure out what customers are doing. Product teams use the product intelligence tools to figure out what's going on. And really, we want to unify this around a single way to have people submit data using what we provide with product intelligence, find ways to serve it back to them as part of the product itself, either as a really big feature, such as what the product analytics dashboards are being done, or at a minimum as here's an API where you can get a CSV or a JSON, something like that, so that an account team can say to a customer, you used feature X 50 times last month. You can see that directly in the product, and you can trust what I'm saying, that we're all talking about the same sort of thing. This is a big page, so please take a read of it when you get a chance. It's also not final. We should iterate on top of it. So any feedback, questions, comments, or edits, let's talk about those and make some changes if we need to.
Thanks for highlighting this, Sam. I have one question, because I think, the original MR is merged now. So I'm wondering where we should collect the feedback so that it doesn't, go all over the place and some, like gets lost or something. Is there like a specific place you have in mind where we should put this?
Everything starts with a merge request. So if you want to propose a change directly in an MR, that's fine. If not, an issue works as well. Or if you want to just chat with me directly about it, I'm happy to put an MR together with the result of a discussion. So okay. Any of those would be my preference.
Cool. Thanks then. Mikolai, do you want to go next, or should I go next after all, since I kind of put your stuff first?
Up to you. Mine was just meant to be interesting filler if there is no other content, so it's up to you.
Yeah, I think I can go first, and we can do yours maybe last, because it's going to probably take the longest, so we can fill up the rest. Maybe I'm just going to also do it more as a signal boost. So I proposed a kind of weekly check-in in the retro issue. So we tried out going through the board in, I think, 1 or 2 of the last product intelligence syncs. We have this midweek transparency sync in Slack, which is not really consistently used, let's say. But at the same time, it feels like there is a general need or kind of about sharing what everyone is doing, or kind of crowding a bit of a broader context outside of, okay, what am I personally doing right now in the moment? And maybe it's just me, but it feels like this need is not only on the engineering management and product management side, but also for the engineers in general, that we kind of get a bit more of an understanding of what everyone else is doing, so that we can understand if there's like blockers that we can help with, or any kind of cross-pollination, or just like how people are doing. Are they happy? Are they not happy? And so on. So I proposed something in there. I guess it's probably better if we just collect any kind of feedback in the retro issue. I'd be happy if you can, like within the next few days or something, start reading, like just giving your input in this, if you think this is something we should try, or if you have different feelings about it. Again, as with other things, I would always say, or other kinds of processes, it's always something that we can then try and then also iterate on later. I just wanted to make sure to get everyone's input before I like put something on you, and also make sure that it's kind of understandable. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so next point is mine. I wanted to say that we merged the request, which will allow us to aggregate CE and TE metrics together. So we no longer have this restriction on our aggregates.
Nice. Woohoo.
Good job.
I'm actually wondering, like, because I can check this history of this again, but is this maybe something we should actually like also signal boost to specific people again? I mean, because I would assume that this is coming from outside of our like, or kind of spraying out of specific need of doing aggregations on specific metrics.
Yeah, so there was one issue that was linked to the one that we closed, and I added a comment there
Cool.
to signal that to the author. There could also be some other issues, but I'm not sure if we would be able to find them if they are not linked to the one that we solved. Because
Okay.
I think there were at least 2 situations. I could actually go through the issue again because I believe it also has some related MRs linked, and I think one of them leads to another issue where we could also signal boost it.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. Just to make sure that this doesn't get drowned out.
Yeah, and so I also added a note for the engineering FYI document. So hopefully this information gets to everyone who needs it.
I can reshare what you've posted in engineering FYI in the product channel as well, just in case any of the PMs have metrics they want to aggregate and had to hold off before until this.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Right, so let's wait while Nikolai is writing.
Yep, I'm not good at taking those and speaking at the same time. So the next point is mine. And since we have some time left, I just thought it might be interesting to anybody to share some initial learnings they got when I researched the solution landscape. I would say not competitive landscape, but solution landscape for Jitsu alternatives, which I did for Spike issue that we have in this milestone. And I looked into the Snowplow, post hoc, Jitsu, and the observability architecture that was proposed for the metrics collection, which are in a sense the same. The event source is different, but the solution is in the high level about the same. And what was quite interesting to notice is that all 4 proposed architectures, even though coming from the different teams with the different experiences, share a lot of similarities in the proposed architectures. So I will screen share and just show brief diagrams for each of those. So can you see my screen? It's
Yeah.
So here we have post hoc architecture. Come here. Here it is. So how post hoc collects events. It has the endpoint that receives the payloads. Then it plays into the Kafka topic. Then it has the ingestion server, and then yet again another Kafka, and the destination or the analytics database. Then if we take a look at Snowplow, here again, all the events are comes to the pipeline, which if we zoom in, I hope it will be a little bit better. It's again supported by the Kinesis PubSub Google buffer, and it plays data on the different stages into the topics. And then finally, from last of the buffers, it went to the destination. Here is the proposed observability architecture. So again, AP gateway, Kafka topics, and then destinations. And finally, here is the Jitsu, which the diagram is a little bit imperfect. I needed to dive into the code today to get the details, but how it looks is that it receives the events in JSON, then depending on the mode, it goes to 2 different pipelines, but each of those pipelines, they don't directly use the querying or like buffering technology, but rather use the file system logs that are rotated. So they receive events, place events in the log file, then read the event from log file and place it into the destination in the end. Let's get back to my notes. So I found this very interesting that all 4 of them, if you look at the architecture, like from the very high level overview, follows almost the same pattern. So producer consumer, where data is placed from one small app to another and is connected via buffers. And the differences which occurs between those systems are mostly in the technological solution that were chosen. Like, for example, Jitsu decided to use only Go and use the file system. Posthoc went towards using Kafka and Kafka only, while Snowplow provides plenty of different querying solution that can be chosen when deploying Snowplow to different public clouds or to self-hosted. There are a little bit differences in terms of where the responsibilities are allocated. For example, Snowplow provides very thin collection layer, so there's very thin API gateway that takes the data in, and then there are separate services that goes from buffer to buffer and provides the enrichment and saving, while, for example, Jitsu provides collection and enrichment almost at the same place, and only saving is done by the separate service. Posthoc has a mix of both approaches, but in general, at least from my perspective right now, it seems that there's a quite clear architectural pattern that's followed by all of these solutions. And if we would consider if you want to build or utilize something, mostly you should focus on like what are the different supporting solutions rather than what is the architecture that we should follow, at least at the beginning, because probably it would be better to not reinvent the wheel, but rather start from the common ground. And then maybe you decide, oh, this is like, maybe the buffers are not that good, but we want to do something else. But probably all those teams have encounter similar challenges, and that leads them to this like convergence in the architecture, which is quite interesting from my point. And that's all for now.
Very cool. It's interesting to hear that each of them had a very similar sort of architecture, at least at a high level. One question I did have about your post-hog investigation, another team previously looked at post-hog and found some scalability issues when it would get to, say, a GitLab.com sort of size. Did you uncover anything about why that might have been, or any sort of concerns you had with scalability of either post-hog or any of the other architectures?
So I'm not a Kafka expert, and on the post-hog self-managed site, like self-managed this deployment site, it says that it only accepts to 100,000 events per month, I believe. And I think that Posthoc is not prepared to be deployed in the very big scale, in a way that probably if you want to deploy Posthoc in a scalable solution, we just need to take their architecture, break it apart, set it up in the auto-scaling clusters. Like for example, with the Snowplow, right now we have all the auto-scaling groups that upon discovering that we are reaching the request limit on the collectors as the new collector nodes, or if we are stacking up the events in the buffer for the enrichment, we added more enrichments to get the backlog of events down. While this is not provided out of the box from Posthoc, or it doesn't seem to be provided. It uses Kafka, which provides some scalability. But as I also read today, looking for different solutions, Kafka can be scaled to the great mass, but then requires almost dedicated team of the engineers just to operate Kafka. So like we have GitLab, the database team that operates our database, we need to have like a Kafka team. And since it really doesn't make sense if you want to sell your product, open source product to small organizations, say like, hey, yeah, this is our open source offering, but you need a whole team to run your Kafka instance. So they probably try to automate it to some extent. But I believe, this is my assumption, that this is the source of the limitation of self-managed, because it's prepared to be automated. But if you want to run it on a really, really big scale, then you just need the operational team that only maintain the Kafka itself.
Got it. Okay, no, that makes sense. So it's more of an issue of the Kafka deployment complexity rather than an architectural sort of concern. Then makes sense.
They use Kafka and ClickHouse, which like Kafka is used by LinkedIn, Netflix, which are really, really big scale sites. So definitely Kafka is able to handle big load. Also, ClickHouse is able to handle big load. The challenge is to package it up in the way that just spin it up and forget it about it, and still make it scale. I think that's the blocker there.
Yeah. Got it. Cool,
yeah, I think actually, for example, Shopify is also using a similar system with Kafka in the center of collecting all the events that are happening. But I have no idea. I would assume that they also, for example, have a really big team handling it.
I read the articles like the Kafka was the only solution for like last 10 years, or like I think that until 10 years ago it was the only solution, something like that. And the only new tools start to emerge, but still Kafka has the biggest community and the biggest name, especially in the open source field. So I believe that's one of the reasons why like a lot of big organizations rely on Kafka right now.
Because we are at this topic now with the kind of size or being able to handle the size. I was wondering, kind of looking into Jitsu, because one of the concerns around it is that it's not that much used yet, and so on. And also, I mean, just looking at the architecture diagram very quickly now, I was wondering, do we have any data, or is there any kind of data around how easily Jitsu is going to be able to handle load at, for example, the GitLab.com size? Or Sam, did you already see something?
I didn't have the numbers about like Jitsu performance right now. They only advice from Jitsu itself on their page about scaling was Jitsu provides the Jitsu server, which seems to be monolithic application, even though under the hood is multiple threaded processes running like under the hood a single Go binary. So they advise to run multiple Go binaries because they are stateless. It's possible to put the load balancer in front of the all of these Jitsu server instances, and therefore vertically vertically scale the collection pipeline. Probably it would also be important to consider like on which server they are actually residing. If we place all the binaries on the same server, they will start using the same CPU pool and the same IO pool. And the IO, since they are using the file system, probably would become a bottleneck. But if we use either cloud storage or different small, even bare metal servers with independent IO, then probably it can be scaled horizontally, at least to the premises they offer on their page.
You mean because they are using local, like the local file system as storage instead of a some kind of Kafka or similar queue.
Yes.
Which is kind of maybe makes it also a bit simpler from
it's
from a certain perspective.
It's easier. That's one Go binary that do all the tricks, so it's very easy from setup and maintenance from the user perspective.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, like regardless of Jitsu replacement, that this is kind of an interesting approach in the sense of not having to maintain like another service. Also, when thinking about kind of doing, for example, event tracking on our like self-managed instances on the smaller scale, where also the easiest way would probably to not have, I don't know, ClickHouse or Kafka or anything else, but if you just use like a local file system, push some events there and then send them out at some later point.
Yeah, it's definitely a viable solution. Like my thoughts and ideas from this work right now is that I really like the snowplow approach, which because in the sense, as it was shown, it differs only on the underlying like supporting technology. So place it in the queue or place it in the file system, and the snowplow already abstracted that. So how the collectors are built is like there's like core collector logic and bunch of the lib directories for connecting to each of supported querying system. And following this kind of actual architectural pattern from the start, if we would like to go for designing our own system, I think it's very reasonable thing to do. We could start and build like the only one connector, file system connector, as the MVC, just to support small self-managed instances. But what is not, I think it could be limiting in terms of Jitsu is that the file system is very deeply built into like it's not separated, but it's just a part of the whole seemingly monolithic application. So it may be harder for them to switch to Kafka because they rely on having the single file system and having single services. So I would prefer to follow this snowplow path, so kind of abstract. We can decide like, yeah, using the file system works because Jitsu provides that up to the scale it works. So build the connector to the file system as a starter, but still provide it as a package, which is separated from the core collection logic. So later on, we can add something that scales for like, I don't know, 100,000 users on very big instance.
I will share a note that I saw in the Jitsu Slack. They are working on a project they call Bulker. I'll drop I don't know if I shared this. I'll drop a link in the agenda, which is based on Kafka. I'm not sure exactly how it fits in with the rest of Jitsu, but just wanted to share that in case it's new information.
It definitely is. So thank you very much. I only started diving to Jitsu this morning, so I definitely may have some blind spots. It was a limited time to do so, but thank you very much for sharing. I will definitely take a look inside.
Yeah, I'll take a screenshot of because I think it was only announced in their Slack. I don't think I saw an actual like announcement anywhere for it, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, it definitely looks like something that's kind of underlying technology to enable the bigger Jitsu ecosystem to work. But as it sounds like there, it's more from the description, it sounds more like it's supposed to be part of the ETL pipelines. So kind of extracting data from other systems, like, I don't know, your Salesforce or something like that, and not necessarily kind of the type of event processing. My assumption comes also from the name, because it's called bulker. So you're like bulk transporting things, like getting the last 100,000 of customer contacts out of your Salesforce into your whatever kind of database warehouse you have. All right. Does anyone have anything else we should talk about? Because we're also already at time. If not, then thanks a lot for attending. We're going to have the social call directly after for anyone who wants to attend or has time to attend. Yeah, and then see you all around.
Thanks, folks.